So, dear learners, in our previous lecture, we were discussing about the impact of the UDHR. We discussed how UDHR was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. We found that it was called the Magna Carta of mankind. We also discussed that the General Assembly itself declared it the common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations. So, in the light of that discussion that we had in our previous class, you can understand the impact, you can understand the significance of the UDHR. We also discussed that it has been translated into more than 500 languages of the world. It is the most cited human rights document or instrument. So, all these things we have already discussed. Today, we will continue with the impact of the UDHR, and we highlighted the point that we left in the previous class was the first manifestation of the impact of the UDHR that it had on the world was the end of apartheid in South Africa. So, the UDHR's principle of non-discrimination became a rallying cry for anti-apartheid activists, ultimately contributing to the dismantling of this oppressive system. You see why this was considered as something bad, why apartheid was considered as illegal in the light of the international customary law of human rights, that is UDHR, because UDHR had claimed that everybody is equal. It had claimed the equal worth and dignity of all human beings, irrespective of caste, creed, sex, place of birth, etc. So that is why it became a rallying point. It inspired, it motivated the human rights activists, anti-apartheid activists in South Africa and other parts of the world to denounce apartheid and claim equality and equal opportunities for all. Another important achievement or impact of the UDHR is abolition of slavery. So, the UDHR's clear condemnation of slavery helped fuel global efforts to eradicate this inhuman practice. You see, since the time of master slave relations, you will find it was still continuing. Or it was only in 19th century that you will find it was abolished in America, but it has been continuing in the different parts of the world. So that's why you see this instrument of human right, that is UDHR, where the UDHR's clear condemnation of slavery was condemned by it, helped fuel global efforts to eradicate this inhuman practice. Protection of indigenous rights. The UDHR's recognition of the right to self-determination. It has been emphasized in the UDHR. If you go through the articles that we will discuss right now after this part, so you'll find the UDHR's recognition of the right to self-determination empowers indigenous communities to advocate for their cultural heritage and land rights. So, right to self-determination, it may include, first of all, the countries that were under colonial rule and they wanted to liberate themselves. So, that is why right to self-determination is being recognized through UDHR. Again, it means universal acceptability to the right to self-determination. But it is not only this, that the countries that were under colonies, you will find colonies may, or the colonialism may have different kind of manifestation. So, indigenous communities, that were living in some pockets in a particular national territory. So when the right to self-determination is being emphasized, what is happening? That the empowers indigenous communities to advocate for their cultural heritage and land rights. That they should not be uprooted from the lands where they have been living for centuries. For example, our own Adivasi population living in the jungles and the forest areas or the tribal areas. Similarly, you will find that it is, they have a right to preserve their cultural heritage. A monocultural world will always be a problem and that will destroy everything. So that is why diversity is something that is being recognized through this, and that is why You see the indigenous communities, of course, they were marginalized. They were not very forward or very developed. So that is why you see they got this right, as well as they got a moral strength to claim the right to preserve their cultural heritage and land rights. Again, important. Advancement of women's rights, another milestone or another important achievement of the this UDHR. The UDHR's guarantee of equal rights for all has paved the way for numerous legal and social reforms promoting gender equality globally. You see, all the societies were not believing in gender equality. And that's why there were many people who were trying, or many countries who were trying to shield themselves, or they were trying to hide themselves behind the garb of cultural relativism, and they were trying to claim that our culture is different, or our cultural values and the values are different. But here you will find what is happening, that the UDHR is claiming that equal rights of for all, that was without any discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, sex, place of birth, etc. So the gender equality is already inherent in the UDHR, and that is why what happened, that the numerous legal and social reforms promoting gender equality globally, they were adopted because of the UDHR. So that is why in the post-colonial societies, especially after the Second World War or after the establishment of the United Nations, when the countries got independence, or under and the national liberation struggles that were already going on, you will find when the constitution they drafted, the rights of women were also taken into account, and that's why gender equality was promoted through the constitution they adopted. We should also remember that many of the governments or many states, they have already participated and they have agreed upon. They were party to this UDHR. So that is why they had a corresponding duty as well, of course, in the moral sense of the term. So that is why they gave a space to women and their legitimate claim, for example, voting right, that they should be given, they should be included under universal adult franchise. So that is a big achievement. Fight against discrimination. The UDHR serves as a reference point for national and international laws prohibiting discrimination based on race, religion, sexual orientation, and other grounds. So here you will find that UDHR serves as a reference point for national and international laws prohibiting discrimination based on race, religion, sexual exploitation, and other grounds. Discrimination has been a reality in many societies of the world. Discrimination and marginalization, social exclusion, all these things have been the feature of many societies of the world. So here what is found, it is fight against discrimination on the grounds of religion, caste, creed, or sex, etc. that is being opposed and that is being denounced through this UDHR. So that is why it becomes a document that is trying to promote equality. So after having this discussion on the impact, the significance, and then we also discussed in the introduction part how it was drafted. The best thing that you have to remember, that UDHR, what it did, it developed a kind of consensus on the catalog of rights at the international level. So that is why it is important. Now we are going to see the preamble, the provisions of the UDHR. This is just UDHR before you are seeing. So the preamble of the UDHR, and you have to ponder over the words. You have to note the important words that the UDHR preamble is mentioning. So it starts, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. You see the beauty, and you see the language, that the foundation of peace and justice. What is the foundation of peace and justice in the world according to the preamble? And this is the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family. World is being considered as a global family. What is there in our civilizational value, that is called Vasudeva Kutumbakam. So that is being claimed. In a say, it is, in a sense, it is Vasudeva Kutumbakam. What is being emphasized that whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind, and the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people. You see. So, what is being proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people? And that is, they are saying that the disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts, for example, wars, genocide, all these things you can have in your mind. So the contempt for human rights, if genocide is there by a country or by the other country against, if it is invading, for example, Hitler has committed genocide against Jews. Similarly, you see the Japanese forces committed genocide in Manchuria, and they also went for mass rape of Chinese women. So that is why here disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind. You see the language. And the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy what? Freedom of speech and belief. Without fear, they can speak and they can have a particular kind of belief and opinion. And freedom from fear and want. The freedom from fear and want, it means that the basic needs of the people. Want, it may include unemployment, it may include, the scarcity, it may include hunger, poverty, starvation, all. Bad health, where the health care facilities are not there, has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the all common people. That is important. Now again it is mentioning where it is essential, if man is not to be compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law. Very important. What is being emphasized? That if you want to maintain international peace, if you want to maintain, and if you want to prevent rebellion against tyranny and oppression, then what is to be done? What is the solution that is being offered by UDHR? That human rights should be protected by the rule of law. You see, that the rule of law will also promote democracy. It will also promote, that the system of governance should not be such where the people are, or few people or one individual is trying to run the country on his own or her own, so it will. So that is why the rule of law is being emphasized. And the rule of law must protect human rights. Whereas it is essential to promote the development of friendly relations between nations. This is also being recognized because, if the friendly relations is not there between the nations, it may lead to war, and war is one of the most flagrant violations of human rights. So that is why it, to promote the development of friendly relations between nations, important. Whereas the peoples of the United Nations have in the Charter reaffirmed their faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of human person, and in the equal rights of men and women, and have determined to promote social progress and better standard of life in larger freedom. They have already. So, we the peoples of the United Nations have in the Charter reaffirmed their faith. All the people. In what? In the dignity and worth of human person and in the equal rights of men and women. and have determined to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. Whereas member states have pledged themselves to achieve, in cooperation with the United Nations, the promotion of universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms. This is also being asserted. So it means that the member states, all the countries, or all the member of the United Nations, all the member countries of the United Nations, they have pledged what? That themselves to achieve, in cooperation with the United Nations. United Nations is a body that will coordinate this effort, a supranational body, an international organization, that will try to coordinate what? With the other nations of the world, the promotion of universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Whereas a common standard of these rights and freedoms is of the greatest importance for the full realization of this pledge. Now, therefore, after having said all these things, what is being done now? The General Assembly proclaims this Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a common standard of achievement. Mind the words, as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations. Why it is all peoples and all nations? Because there were many colonies at that time. So, if they were not nations, but still, they were the people who were living over there. So that is why, for all peoples and all nations, to the end that every individual and every organ of society, keeping this declaration constantly in mind, shall strive by teaching and education. Again, mind the words. Shall strive by teaching and education. What we are doing today, understanding human rights. So, shall strive. That is a duty imposed upon the states. So, understanding human rights, this course becomes so important for you. You see, and you will find the root here. That shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these rights and freedoms, and by progressive measures, national and international, to secure their universal and effective recognition and observance, both among the peoples of member states themselves and among the peoples of territories under their jurisdiction. I was talking about the colonies, trust, territories. You'll find that is why the trusteeship council was there in the United Nations. So, this is being emphasized. Therefore, in the introduction to this course, I had already told you that human rights, when we are talking about this course, it is not only a course to be taught and learned, but this is a course which also aims to sensitize people about human rights. The sensitization is the part and parcel of this course. So that is why, and that is being emphasized by this Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the preamble itself, that nations, what they will try to do, they shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these rights and freedoms, and by progressive measures, national and international, to secure their universal and effective recognition and observance, both among the peoples of member states themselves and among the peoples of territories under their jurisdiction. So, colonial powers were also interested upon these duties, they were given to them, that, these rights are to be promoted in the territories where they were ruling, or they had occupied, or they were, having colonies. The significant provisions we are going to discuss, rather we will discuss all the provisions, but the discussion will have not all the provisions. So that is why we have written significant provisions. The UDHR contains several landmark provisions that have far-reaching implications, and their impact you have to see. These articles grantee fundamental rights and freedoms that are essential for a just and equitable world. So you'll find from Article 1 to Article 2022, you'll find many rights, civil and political rights, they have been emphasized. First generation of human rights, and after that you'll find the second generation of human rights, they have been also emphasized. So first of all, this Article 1. This opening article sets the tone by declaring that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. This powerful statement establishes the universality of human rights, transcending cultural and political boundaries. So it becomes universal human rights. All human rights that are proclaimed under UDHR, they become universal. Why? Because it is saying that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. The people, those who are not, for example, many countries are not the member of the United Nations at that time, but the people living over there also, that is being proclaimed, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Article 2. Everyone is equal regardless of race, color, sex, language, religion, politics, or where they were born. So the place of birth or the language, sex, religion, color, race cannot be a ground of discrimination. Again, equality is being emphasized. Article 3. Everyone has the right to life and to live in freedom and safety. Again, everyone is having this right. Article 4. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. So, the slavery in all its forms and manifestations will be prohibited. The countries, member states, those who are practicing slavery or those who were not ready to abolish slavery, so it is providing a powerful ground, a foundational pillar to work for the abolition of slavery. Article 5. Everyone has the right to be free from torture. You see, the torture in most of the states, we were talking about that there are two apparatuses of the state. One is ideological apparatus and the second is repressive apparatus, which includes police, army, torture chambers, prison and all. So, you see that the torture should not be there. There is a separate convention also that has been adopted by the United Nations, that is Convention Against Torture. So, the torture is a violation of international law. It is violation of UDHR. Whether it is in the custody of the police or anywhere, torture is unacceptable. Then you have Article 7, equality before law. This is, of course, equality again means. So you see the inherent message or the inherent spirit of all these articles are equality. Then everyone, Article 9, everyone has the right to freedom from arbitrary arrest, detention or exile. So arbitrary arrest should not be there. It means there should be some kind of law, procedure established by law is to be be there when the people are being arrested or detained, or people cannot be sent in exile. They cannot be made stateless by sending them in exile. This is, again, violation of this UDHR. Article 10 is saying everyone has the right to fair trial. So, it means that the natural justice, what does it mean? The fair trial should be there. And for the fair trial, what is to be understood? That all people, all accused are to be presumed innocent unless proved otherwise. The accusation may be there by the police, but ultimately there is the rule of law. So that is why judiciary has to see whether the people have committed this crime or not. Police cannot punish them. It can only, apprehend them and bring before the court, and it is the court where there will be fair trial according to the procedure established by law, and where the person will be given the right to defend himself or herself. On the basis of that only, we will find anything like arrest, etc. will be done. Everyone has the right to be presumed innocent until proved guilty. That is there, already mentioned. So the media trial, for example, if you are elaborating, what happens, for example, a person is declared anything like a terrorist, a militant, a Maoist, or a Naxal, and what happens? Media trial starts. And media starts pronouncing judgment. That is violation of this principle, because a person is to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. I think the people sitting in the newsrooms, they must be taught this UDHR, and they should be sensitized that whether they do it deliberately or not, but they are violating this important principle, which is part and parcel of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So the media trial in this sense, where they are pronouncing judgment and creating problem for the person who may be innocent, we never know, and it also puts judiciary under pressure, judges under pressure. So that is again violation of this. Everyone has the right to privacy and freedom from attacks on their reputation. We have public space as well as we have our private or personal space. So that personal space should not be invaded by others. Now you can include many things. For example, your own Facebook page, your own personal space. That should not be invaded by others through hacking and all. So these days you can include all these things. And so it is everyone has the right to privacy and freedom from attacks on their reputation. Article 13. Everyone has the right to freedom of movement and to be free to leave and return to their own country. This is again important. So as a punishment, there are many countries who try to, do something like that citizenship is taken away. So this is violation. So everyone has the right to freedom of movement and to be free to leave and return to their own country. Free to leave and then return to their own country. So for example, for better opportunities, the people are going from one country to another, and if they are feeling nostalgic about their own country, the emotional backup that they had their own country, so that is why they want to come back. So everyone has the right to freedom of movement and to be free to leave and return to their own country. Very important principle, of international law today. Article 14. Everyone has the right to seek asylum from persecution. If for their political ideology or belief or opinion somebody is having the threat of persecution in his own country, he has every right to move to other country or seek asylum. Asylum means shelter with active protection. That is there. So that becomes the right of the individual. Everyone has the right to a nationality. Again important, nationality cannot be snatched. It cannot be taken away. So everyone has a right to a nationality. Why? Because you see, we are living in an interstate framework. So you just see every inch of land, or almost all the land that we have, they are part and parcel of some countries, or they are under some national territory. So that is why where the people will go if they are living on this planet. So that is why, because of this, everyone has the right to a nationality. You need nationality. Why? Because then only you can have a passport. And when you don't have a passport in the interstate framework, you cannot move from your own country to other. So other rights like right to free movement, that will be restricted if nationality is denied to a person. Article 16. Everyone has the right to marry and to have a family. So the marriage as an important institution, family as an important institution, that is being recognized. So everyone has the right to marry and to have a family. Article 17. Everyone has the right to own property. So you can have your property, that is also the right of every individual. Article 18. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, you see. And freedom either alone or in community with others in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship and observance. So it is giving right to convert. So everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion. Right to convert, it means, or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship and observance. Sometimes you see that it is said that why do you try to assert your identity? You see, this right is not mentioning specifically the rights of minorities or the rights of the people, those who may feel that their identity, like whether linguistic identity, racial identity, or religious identity is under threat. This kind of feeling you'll find most of the time in the minorities anywhere in the world, because they always have a fear that the majority will try to impose its ideas and values upon them. So that is why since they are in not in majority, so that is why and you will also find the temptation of the majority, and in almost all parts of the world, that they try to impose their ideas and culture upon the smaller groups. So and by sheer number, they try to declare what, the monopoly of truth, that they have the monopoly of truth. And that's why you see John Stuart Mill warned against the tyranny of majority. So under this, what is being emphasized, that the people have a right to convert, people have change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community practices, the religious practices, in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. Article 19. Everyone has the right to freedom of expression. These rights include freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontier, through any media, and regardless of regardless of frontiers. This is important. Again, so you see, the international sharing of knowledge, information, that becomes a right. Article 20. Everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. So, again, now after that, you have everyone has the right to take part in government and to have equal access to public service. So, take part in the government, it means that a right to cast vote, right to contest elections, and right to become the officer or hold any position in the executive, and to have equal access to public services. Public employment, that is the state employment or the employment given by the state, the people should have opportunity and equal access. Article 22. Everyone has the right to social security. So up to Article 21, what was there? You'll find first generation human rights, that is civil and political rights, were being emphasized. Now from Article 22, you see the second generation human rights are coming into picture. And there everyone has the right to social security. Then Article 23, everyone has the right to work, to equal pay, to protection against unemployment, and the right to form and join trade unions. You see that second generation human rights. Article 24, everyone has the right to rest and leisure. Most of the time, I had already discussed in the Marxian theory of rights that earlier, after industrial revolution, people used to work 14 hours a day, and there were no holidays for them. So that's why you see that everyone has the right to rest and leisure. So now, what is the general principle according to ILO convention and the laws that have been developed, that nobody can be compelled to work beyond 8 hours. Universal standard. Article 25. Everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family. So, his right to a standard of living, that is important, including food, clothing, housing, medical care, and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, or other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his control. So you see, again, second generation important rights, where the state has to be a welfare state and its state has to take care of these people. Then Article 26 is recognizing right to education. Article 27. Everyone has the right freely to participate in the cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts, and to share in scientific advancement and its benefit. So again, this is important. Cultural life of the community. So the cultural rights, so economic, social, and cultural rights, they are being emphasized. Article 28. So from 22 to the article that are following, what is happening, that economic, social, and cultural rights are being emphasized. Article 28, everyone has the right to a social and international border where the rights in this declaration can be fully realized. This is being emphasized. And Article 29, talking about the duty. You see, it is not only mentioning rights. So everyone has a duty to other people and should protect their rights and freedoms. So it is Article 29 is emphasizing on duties. So everyone has a duty to what? Duty to other people and should protect their rights and freedom. It means rights and duties go together. We have already discussed while discussing the nature of human rights, and that is being emphasized here in the UDHR. So, after this, you'll find this that article, these 30 articles of the UDHR, they are mentioning the civil and political rights. They are the first generation of human rights, that is from Article 1 to Article 21. And after that, Article 22 to Article 29, Article 28, you'll find that what is being emphasized, the rights, that is the second generation human rights. So you see, because of that, only consensus was built up. You see, this was the time when the world was already divided into two hostile blocks, capitalist and the socialist. And the ideological positions the countries were taking on issues of human rights. So here what is happening? It is satisfying the aspirations of both the blocks. So that is why, credit should be given to the framers of this UDHR and the people, those who played an important role in drafting this UDHR, that they prepared a document which was going to develop a kind of consensus all over the world on the catalog of human rights. After that, quickly we are going to take up the conclusion. So the UDHR remains a beacon of hope in the quest for a just and equitable world. Its timeless principles serve as a guide for government, civil society, organizations, and individuals in promoting and protecting human rights. UDHR includes both first and second generation human rights that we have already mentioned. It played an important role in universalizing human rights. First time it happened that a body like United Nations prepared a document or instrument of human rights or catalog of human rights which was universally accepted. It developed a parameter or universal standard to judge countries on account of human rights. Again, you see, it has been cited in over 100 instruments of human rights adopted by the UN. So, this is all about the UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Thank you very much. In the next lecture, we are going to take up the two legally binding instruments of human rights, and they are International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and then International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. Thank you very much.